in that.
Yep, it's on now, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Mike. Right, can I welcome all members and officers to this meeting of Coychurch Crematorium Joint Committee meeting, which will be held as a remote meeting via Microsoft Teams. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as practical following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that the mobile phones are switched off or in silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I will ask officers to present a summary of key points for the record. The agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their microphones and their cameras on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times, if you keep your microphone switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference, and to ensure the connections remain as stable as possible. All members attending remotely are asked to keep their cameras on throughout the meeting, and if any members or officers wish to raise a point or question, they should press the hands up icon at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will call you in the order that I receive requests. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking and the chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use the microphone until I invite you to do so, and officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and when necessary will mute those not being used. I would ask that the officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak, and during the course of the meeting, they too should ensure microphones are switched off when they're not in use. I'll now proceed to the agenda business. And the first item I've got is apologies for absence, and I believe one member. Could you?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
We have apologies from Councillor Stallard.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if there's any declarations of interest, please? I see no hands up, so we can move on to item 3, which is the approval of previous minutes. That's of the 1st of September 2023. Yes, Councillor John.
Move acceptance, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder, please?
Second, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item 4, which is a crematorium business plan and fees. And I think that's you, Joanne, I think.
It is,
right,
Chair.
thank you. Can I ask you to come in? Great.
Can you see me and can you hear me?
I can see and hear you plain. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so the for the purpose of the tape, I'm Joanna Hamilton. I'm the Bereavement Services Manager and Registrar for Coychurch Crematorium and Bridgend County Borough Council. And the purpose of the report, which is starting on page 5, is to approve the business plan and fees report for the forthcoming financial year 2024-25. As detailed in paragraph 2.1, a business plan is presented annually to the Joint Committee for approval, which includes service objectives and proposed maintenance and improvement projects to enhance and maintain the crematorium grounds and buildings for the forthcoming financial year. If we turn to the service level business plan itself, described as attached at Appendix 1 and starts on page 11, you will see awards and achievements noted on page 14, and we're utilising the larger page numbers on the bottom left of the page. And of particular note, the achievement of the Green Flag Award again in 2023, and that the service remains financially self-sufficient. The report then details the staffing structure, The business hours are detailed, the types of memorialisation provided, the different ways that the crematorium markets itself and communicates with its service users, and the different ways that the crematorium remains environmentally sustainable. On page 17 and 18, the key achievements over the past 10 years are listed. More recently, in 2021, the installation of external lighting and the renewal of the two chapels' digital music facilities, including the installation of visual tribute screens, and started in October 2022 and opened to the public in November last year, 2023, our big project, the structural building works for the extension to the flower court and the main chapel exit. Additionally, we've installed some new pathways in the memorial areas of the grounds to improve pedestrian access. Much of the external stonework of the main crematorium building and the funerary entrance stone has been cleaned, and the exterior of the Chapel of Remembrance has been refurbished. At the top of page 19, the performance indicators are shown for the previous 5 years, which relate to user satisfaction, the results of which are taken from the service questionnaires sent to each cremation applicant. The target is to achieve 100% overall satisfaction levels, rated good or excellent, and these remain constant at 100%, with a target set for the same result in 2024-25. Staying with the appendix, and in accordance with paragraph 3.1 of the Clerk and Technical Officer's report, the annual statistics for cremations in the calendar year 2023 are detailed on page 20 and 21 of the business plan. The total number of cremations for 2023 was 1,186, made up of 773 from Bridgend, 87 from the Vale of Glamorgan, and 283 from Rhondda and Taff, with 43 non-residents. Our agreement with the Princess of Wales Hospital for the cremation of non-viable fetal remains has resulted in an additional 6 communal cremations, and a further 17 individual fetal cremations were arranged directly with families. The statistical record table for 2022 is included for comparison purposes on page 21, and you will see that the total number of cremations in 2022 was 1,571, which is a decrease of 385 cremations in 2023 due to the closure of the larger chapel while the flower court building extension took place. Since the reopening of the chapel in November 2023, cremation numbers have returned to more normal levels. In accordance with paragraph 3.2 of the Clerk and Technical Officer's report, pages 22 to 23 of the business plan then outline the service developments and objectives. Firstly, those previously agreed for the period 2021-22 as a recap of recent large works completed. Page 22 details the annual income generated from the crematorium's abatement plant, installed in 2016, enabling the crematorium to trade with Cameo. £3,172 has been received for the trading year 2022. The crematorium awaits confirmation of the potential amount of income it can expect to generate for 2023. And I'd make a note here that we would expect to continue to see a slight decrease in this annual income in the future as more crematorium install mercury abatement plant. Also detailed is the replacement of the two chapels' computerised music and media systems in December 2021. The installation of external lighting to the grounds was also completed in 2021. The bottom of page 23 outlines the agreed works for 2022-23. The flower court extension, which was unfortunately much delayed, as we know, by the pandemic. It received approval of the tender and the award of contract by the Joint Committee in July 2022, and the works commenced on site on the 3rd of October 2022. It was opened to the public in November 2023. The budget amount was included in both the 2022-23 budget and the 2023-24 budget because the building works spanned the 2 financial years. Some additional works have increased the capital spend, and this will be funded from the crematorium's accumulated balance. The new flower court has received much praise from service users and has facilitated the quicker movement of mourners from the chapel at the end of the funeral service. The other main focus of agreed service objectives for 2023-24, which will also continue into 2024-25, are summarised on page 25. Firstly, the refurbishment of the Chapel of Remembrance. The plans to install underfloor heating have been cancelled due to the listed building status of the chapel and the potential negative impact on humidity levels. Instead, redecoration and repair works to the exterior of the chapel were completed in 2023, and internal redecoration works have been reprogrammed into the work schedule and revenue maintenance budget for 2024-25. Secondly, improvements to the sight lines at the crematorium's exit gate to improve safety. The proposed works have been delayed due to the flower court extension works taking place, followed by the installation of new pathways, and has been reprogrammed into the work schedule and revenue maintenance budget for 2024-25. Thirdly, the installation of the additional pathways in memorial areas to improve safety and pedestrian access. This was partly delayed due to the flower court extension works taking place. New pathways have been installed in the crematorium's rose garden, and additional works have been reprogrammed into the work schedule and capital budget for 2024-25. In addition to these proposed service developments for 24-25, a property contingency is included in the crematorium's revenue budget to cover unplanned works and general repair and maintenance. I've added a note to remind the Joint Committee also that the surplus fund is designed to build up reserves for the future replacement of the cremators and ancillary plant in approximately 7 years' time, as well as fund all future service improvements. So maintaining this reserve will ensure the crematorium has sufficient long-term funds for both, plus any unplanned eventualities that could occur. The table on page 26 summarises the projected costs for these planned works and shows estimated funds moving from the current budget to the 24-25 budget. And the table on page 27 provides details of the proposed overall budget for 2024-25, and this will be further detailed in the Treasurer's report, which follows this report. The table on page 28 summarises the timescales and officer responsibilities for the projects over the past and current financial year and for the reported objectives for 2024-25. So if we leave the business plan appendix and turn back to the Clerk and Technical Officer's report itself, on page 6, I refer you to paragraph 3.3, which relates to the setting of charges for 2024-25, in particular the weekly adult cremation charge and accordingly all fees. The cremation charge for the current financial year places the crematorium at 291 out of 322 cremation authorities in a National Fee League table that was published in the summer of 2023, where the highest cremation charge is detailed first. The table in paragraph 3.4 shows a comparison of current cremation fees for adjoining crematoria. Coychurch currently sits as the second highest local authority crematoria, just below Croesy-Ceiliog. The first 4 in the table, the Vale of Glamorgan, Langston Vale, Llanelli and Sahawi Valley, are all private crematoria. In general, Fees and charges are set with the aim of full cost recovery and either increased in line with the most recent consumer price index figure, which is currently 4%, or in accordance with service requirements. Coychurch Crematorium achieves a full cost recovery each year, plus additional income, which is transferred to its reserve fund. In recent years, Coychurch Crematorium has increased its fees in accordance with CPI, while nearby crematoria have taken account of the cost of living crisis and reduced their percentage fee increases. Markham Crematorium did not increase fees from April 2019 until last April 2023, when it increased by only 3% compared to Coychurch's 10.5%. And the table in paragraph 3.7 provides a comparison of fee increases since 2019 with the two nearest local authority crematoria, Markham to the west and Thornhill to the east. As I mentioned earlier, cremation numbers at Coychurch Crematorium decreased by 385 in 2023 due to the closure of the larger chapel and the continual use of the smaller chapel, while the Flower Court building extension works took place. With less income being generated as a result of the decreased funeral numbers, the fee increase of 10.5% assisted with meeting increases in energy costs and other inflationary increases. But since the reopening of Crachlow Chapel in December, cremation numbers have increased to more normal levels and are expected to maintain this during 2024-25. The proposed budget for 2024-25 shows a projected accumulated reserve balance of 1.9 million at the end of this month and predicts a net surplus of £256,000 to be transferred to the reserve funds, increasing the net surplus to 2.15 million at the end of March next year. Now, I'd make note that the crematorium's income increased substantially in the pandemic, with 450 additional funerals in the 12 months between March 2020 and March 2021. The idea of the new Flower Court extension was to try to give some of this income back to the bereaved by improving the buildings at Coychurch and the bereavement experience, but simultaneously the increase in our fees over the pandemic period has substantially set us apart from Markham Crematorium, and the disparity has been raised by funeral directors. The level of charges for our memorials is also a concern. It is recommended that fees and charges relating to cremation fees and ancillary services charges are not increased from the 1st of April this year. This will assist to balance out the 10.5% increase in fees and charges in 2023-24, along with previous year's increases, and prevent the gap in fees with Markham Crematorium widening further. Appendix 2 shows the proposed fees and charges for 2024-25 and the additional comparator for fee increases of 4%. The Excel table has split in the printing process over a few pages, so it's a little confusing, but pages 33 and 34 show the pertinent comparison in green. A freeze in fees will provide the bereaved with substantial savings, not just for cremation fees, but for all memorials and ancillary charges as well. Paragraph 3.10 onwards explains that additionally 2 new fees have been added. The first of £50 for the use of the crematorium's unique Grade 2 star listed pipe organs to deter misuse, and for the increased service and maintenance costs, insurance and liability charges resulting from the move to the occasional engagement of freelance organists by funeral directors. This embraces the standard operating procedures implemented by the majority of crematoria throughout the UK, accepting the changing requirements of the bereaved for our digital music and media options, and fully committing to the new technological era, removing the risk and pressures on the service, ensuring a resilient service is provided. And paragraph 3.13 explains the second new fee, which covers the on-charge by Wesley Media for an emergency visual tribute request within 48 hours of a funeral service. Paragraph 8 of the report confirms that all variations to expenditure and income, as outlined in the service level business plan and this report, including the proposals for fees, have been incorporated into the Treasurer's report. The Joint Committee is recommended, therefore, to please approve the service level business plan 2024-25 and approve the content of this report, the fees and charges as set out in the report and in Appendix 2, with no increases to fees and charges for 2024-25. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Joanne. Can I invite Councillor Spanswick to speak, please?
So I think I have a second. Sorry, Chair.
Fine.
No, it doesn't matter. You go first, John. It's okay.
Jump the
You,
queue.
you may want to say a few words, John. No?
Go
Okay,
on, John.
right, thanks.
On you go.
Okay, thanks. But first, to put in order, I'd like to move the recommendations 9.1,
Thank you.
9.2, the report. And I think it's a wise move not to increase the fees, especially as costs are covered and there's a surplus going into the ballot, the fund for the future work. So I will help ease the pressure in some ways. I mean, it's a high charge, but it's high quality service as well. So it makes sense that I'd like to pay tribute as well the part of the report with the customer satisfaction survey every year, 100%. I mean, I got to pay tribute to you, Joanna, and the team. It is a team effort, and there's very few, if any, other services I know of anywhere that have that record. And that's marvelous. It's a pleasure to be part of this committee. And the last one is Appendix 2. It's baffled me. Is it because it's online, the document, or is it in the printed documents? Okay, it looks okay in the printed?
In the printed document, it's fine. It
right,
might help you to actually look at the Appendix 1 of the Treasurer's report, which also lists the fees. And on that one, it's not split. Although you can't see the 4% comparison on that one, at least you can see the fees as they are against what they represent, if you see what I mean, without being split over different pages. It was fine on mine, but when I saw it on the committee report, it had just separated.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Gwyn John, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, Joanne, I'd like to congratulate you on an excellent report. Every year the same, but you didn't take a second breath actually with this report today. It was absolutely brilliant. What I must say is that I'm absolutely furious with the funeral directors in the Vale of Glamorgan for putting out all the propaganda that Coychurch was closed to a lot of local people. And they've been queuing up at Barry Crematorium with cars spilling onto Port Road. Chaos up there some days, and quite honestly, for a private crematorium, the current year they're charging £266 more than ourselves at Coychurch, which I think is absolutely robbery on residents of the Vale of Glamorgan. Of course, these funeral directors are doing this and people aren't aware what's going on, and it's very difficult. I'd love to write a section in the paper, but of course, you know, I'd probably be breaking the code of conduct if I did something like that, but it's certainly something that people need to know about, that this private crematorium is coining it in, where actually public crematoriums, so public money, is doing a better service, a much better service, and I'm really furious about that, but I will say this is an excellent report and congratulations. It's very, very good indeed. And I think John proposed to accept the recommendations, but I'd like to second them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Simon Griffiths, please. You're muted, Simon. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So, an excellent report, and it's a breath of fresh air compared to many of BCPC reports, which are just drudgery to try to get through, to be absolutely frank. But you have a knack of being able to really get the message across very concisely. So So well done for doing that. A couple of things about the overall. I recently, or fairly recently, went to a funeral down in Margam, and actually, I think it's a different quality of service, different that they provide than you provide. I personally wouldn't be worried about trying to match it. I think there is place for something which is maybe a bit cheaper and something which is a bit more expensive. And I think what Coychurch offers is actually probably the highest quality. I'd echo Councillor Gwyn's statement on this, that this is the best service, I think, in the area. I've also been to the funeral recently up at Aberdare in their crematorium, but that also has a high quality service as well, I think. So I'm not too worried about that disparity. What I would like us to think about maybe is that if we are making significant surpluses each year, what we intend to do with those surpluses. I mean, obviously freezing the money this year is a good idea, and I think we should actually do exactly as you suggest. But I wonder whether we can plan for what we do with that surplus going forward. I don't think we should necessarily reduce fees, because, as Councillor Gwyn has also pointed out, we're cheaper than the private options. But maybe there's something else we can do, whether it's planned works or I'm not sure. But I think having a plan for that extra surplus would be good for us going forward.
Thank you. Joanna?
Yeah, just to come back to you on the plan for the future use of our surplus fund. Obviously, a huge amount of time and energy has been spent on this flower court extension over the last few years, and there's only one of me. So it has taken up a huge amount of my time when I'm obviously trying to run this service and the cemeteries administration as well. But there are plenty of plans ahead for what we really do need to spend some more money on our infrastructure and improvements here, and that will be presented to the Joint Committee in future reports. So what I'm trying to do is have not a lull this year, but just a year to try and get back on track and give the bereaved and the funeral directors a little bit of a year of stability where we haven't got too many works going on site. We're still going to have some with pathways, etc., but not quite as much for them to be concerned about on site when they're here. And then we can start to look again at some larger improvement works with that surplus fund for our future.
Thank you very much, Joanna.
Thank you, Joanne. Councillor Paul Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Apologies for being late to the meeting. I'm running late a bit this afternoon.
Okay.
Excellent report, Joanna. All I wanted to say was I attended a funeral recently down the Crem, and that extension is fantastic. I got to say it. At the back there, I was quite gobsmacked. Is the only word I can use, really. I haven't been there before. It's the first time I've seen it. It was absolutely fantastic. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to hear that report, because it's really important that we get feedback when we do projects of this level. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. I can only endorse what's already been said. Fully supportive of the recommendations, officers' recommendations, and accept those. They've been passed, etc. All I can say, I'm so proud to be part of this committee, and I just take my hat off to all the work you do, Joanne, and your staff, and please extend the committee's thanks for that work that you all do, and say I'm really proud to be part of it. I've said it again, I'll say it again. It's very, very special, and it's really good that we've got you at the helm. Thank you.
Well, thank you, but it will be a pleasure to extend that to the rest of the staff and the team here, because it does mean a lot to them to be recognised that way. So thank you.
Okay. Have you, just to move on, have you completed, is there anything else on the financial performance that you want to add to anything, or you're okay with everything? You concluded the 2 items. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether you put them together. Obviously you did. A programme of meetings is item 6. Are you able to?
Sorry, Councillor Stevens, we've got a treasurer's report to come now.
Sorry,
We've
right.
got
I
the
wasn't sure
sorry,
whether you.
we've
Right,
no,
okay.
sorry, we've got the financial performance and proposed
24,
revenue
25,
budget from
yeah.
the treasurer to come now, and
No,
then
that's
my
fine.
programme of meetings. So
Right,
so
fine.
our accountant will take the next paper.
Thanks for that correction. That's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Can I ask Dean
Chairman.
to come in? Yeah. Sorry, Dean. I didn't
Oh,
realise.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. For the purpose of the recording, my name is Dean Jones, and I am the accountant of the Financial Control and Coding Team for Giant County Borough Council. The purpose of the report, which starts on page 35 of the reports, is to inform the Joint Committee of the projected financial performance for the crematorium for 23-24, and to obtain approval from the Joint Committee for the proposed budget and fees and charges for 24-25, which are outlined in Appendix 1. Furthermore, it should be noted that, as in point 2.2 on page 36, the annual return for 22-23 was submitted to Audit Wales at the end of July 23, as notified to the Joint Committee in the previous meeting on the 1st September 23. And as mentioned in our previous meeting, the annual return for 22-23 shown a deficit of 361,665 and an end of year balance of 2,817,942. I can confirm that Audit Wales has now finished their work and no further adjustments were required. And as a result, the annual return was signed by Audit Wales on the 20th of December 2023, and the audited annual return can be seen on Appendix 2 for information. The 23-24 projected financial performance is shown in Table 1 in point 3.1 on page 36. As can be seen, the projected outturn shows a deficit of £933,000 for the year 23-24, compared to a projected deficit of £71,000 when the budget was set out. This is an increase in the deficit of £862,000. For all the variances, they're shown in point 3.2 on page 37. However, the main driver of the variances, of the increase in deficit, is the projected overspend in the Flower Court extension, which resulted in £470,000. And this can be seen in point 3.2 on table 2 on page 37 of the report. As mentioned in the fifth point on page 37 of 3.2, the overspend on the Flower Court extension is due to additional unforeseen costs, including groundwork and drainage alterations, replacement of the utility pipes, CCTV cabling, and alterations to some materials used. And furthermore, repair work and improvements were undertaken to the existing adjoining building so to comply with safety requirements. Also, the capital works on the Flower Court extension have resulted in the use of the small chapel, and due to the size and accessibility of the chapel, the number of cremations decreased, as Joanna mentioned earlier, and income is projected to be £500,000 lower than expected. For 24-25, the proposed budget, which is shown in point 3.3, table 3 on page 38, is a surplus of £256,000, which will increase reserves. It should be highlighted that no allowance has yet been made for a pay award in 24-25, and it is anticipated when the pay awards are agreed, these will be drawn down from the cumulative reserves or funds. The planned capital maintenance spending for 24-25 is £75,000, as illustrated in point 3.6, table 4 on page 38. This is made up of a further £25,000 on the Flower Court extension relating to the retention, and the groundworks paths of £50,000, which were moved from the 23-24 year. The capital expenditure plan for 24-25 does not require any loan and will be directly funded from revenue contributions and the accumulated surplus from previous years, as illustrated in point 3.11 on page 39. As detailed in 3.3.7 on page 39, there has also been a change in fees and charges rates for 2014, or there hasn't been, and they remain as they were as the previous year. The CPI as of December 23 was 4%, and following BCPC policy, it would have resulted in an increase, but as in previous years, we've increased our fees substantially. Like Joanna mentioned earlier, we are far higher in comparison to Margam and other local authorities. And the fees and charges are all shown on Appendix 1, and the rates are the same as 23-24, except for the 2 new fees, as mentioned earlier, relating to the pipe organ and the visual tribute request, which have been added in for this year. As illustrated in point 3.9 in Table 5 on page 39, the surplus for 24-25 of £256,000 will result in an increase in reserves and is projected to be of £2,141,000, which is considered a sufficient level to maintain and protect the service in light of any pay awards and other unknown demands or emergencies. What is recommended to the Joint Committee is 1, to note the projected financial performance for 23-24, 2, confirm and approve the revenue budget for 24-25, and 3, approve that there's no increase in the fees and charges for 24-25 as highlighted in Appendix 1. I'd like to thank you all for listening. I'll return back to the Chair.
Thank you, Dean. Councillor Simon Griffiths.
Yeah, can I propose first, please?
Sorry.
Should propose acceptance first, please, and then I'll.
Right, fine. Is everyone happy to accept the recommendations?
Second that.
Thank you both. Thank you, Councillor Graham. Fine, Councillor Griffiths. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a number of questions, please, and some of it is because I don't quite understand everything. So please bear with me while I try to understand. So in 3.2, you talk about the underspend on planned maintenance of quite a considerable fund, but that was offset by other expenditures on gas and electricity and other things. Could you just explain what's the impact of that underspend on maintenance? Does it mean that we have more maintenance to do in subsequent years? And also an associated question, which is that overspend on gas and electricity, is that likely to continue for the foreseeable future because of the higher gas and electricity prices? And have we incorporated that in the future budgets? So that's my first little sort of set of questions. I've got some more, but maybe I'll let you answer those first.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. I believe, can Joanna...
Can I ask Joanna to come in?
Yeah, sure. So if we look at planned maintenance, we had put quite a bit in there because we're aware that there are things that potentially will need to be done. I'm very aware, for instance, that the lake pond needs some quite a lot of attention. We're losing water. We have a complete pond liner in that, and it's clear that that we are losing water through that. So I know that we're going to have a fair bit of expense coming up with the pond, and ideally I would have addressed that in 2023-24, but it's in exactly the same vicinity as the building extension works and came within the compound area for the contractors. So unfortunately that had to be left alone, and that's been moved forward into the next financial year, and hopefully I'll be able to look at that. And also there was just general things like a lot of painting, redecoration internally, things like the crematorium, which, you know, it would have been ideal to do them, but again they've rolled forward. So it's not anything that is of concern, but it is planned maintenance that will need to be done at some point soon. Sorry, your second point was...
But the gas and electricity. And
Oh, the gas and electricity. Yes, yes, the gas and electricity. The gas and electricity seems to have peaked. We've been watching it, and myself and the accountant have been sort of looking at the statistics of it. It's the amount that we're spending per month has slightly decreased now, and we're expecting that to either hold as that or decrease slightly further. So we're not expecting any more increases, but we have to budget for the level that it is at the moment.
Okay, so you've budgeted for that amount going forward, and
We've budgeted,
and you carried forward the planned expenditure to on maintenance forward as well.
that's correct.
Okay, and if may I just ask one more question, if that's okay, Chair, which is
fine.
actually about the management of the reserves, and this is just for my information. So, do you have entirely separate bank accounts for this, or do you share the bank accounts with BCBC? And also, what you do about treasury management if you have your own accounts, or do you use the treasury management facility that BCBC offers?
Dean, I don't know. I mean, do you want to answer that, or?
Dean, you're muted.
My apologies. I'll have to look into that and get full details because I'm not too familiar myself. But yeah, I'll come back to you, Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you. And I asked this question at the moment because obviously interest rates are much higher now than they were 4 or 5 years ago, and so active treasury management could actually bring in some reasonable returns at the moment, which you wouldn't have done previously. So I don't know whether it's worth checking with BCBC Treasury about whether there's something we can do in that area.
Yeah.
Councillor Griffiths, if I can just come in there, if Dean can just double check that, but I do know that we don't hold our own bank accounts as such. We're part of the Bridgend County Borough Council bank accounts. That's how the joint committee operates. So while we have our own subjective codes that make clear that that money is part of the Coychurch Crematorium surplus funds, it forms part of the Bridgend Council's funds.
Thank you very much. I understand. We just had these questions about Porthcawl Harbour as well, which works on a similar basis, and they have to do their own return in the same ways that you do, even though you don't have your accounts. It makes the return, it makes the audit return at the bottom here look a little bit weird sometimes, because it talks about balances brought forward, which is simply accounting balances and not actually bank balances. So
that's exactly right. It's accounting balances and not bank balances, because the Coychurch Crematorium Joint Committee has to comply with the Bridgend Council's financial regulations, etc. So that's how we operate.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's really clear. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Thank you. Councillor John Spansby, please.
Thanks, Chair. And I love that question from Councillor Griffiths. That's opened up an whole can of worms there, because there's probably a couple of percent of £2 million owed to the Crem each year, but
it was what I was thinking, John.
I know. But yeah, that's interesting. Thanks. Yeah, the question was on the vacancies. There's an underspend of 15,000 on employees. I noticed. I think this week I've seen there's an advert for a crematorium technician, I think. But I was wondering, are you finding increasing problems with filling vacant posts, or is it just a one-off over the past year?
It's just timing issues. We've moved through posts. So we started with long-term sickness of our senior crematorium technician, which lasted 12 months. Unfortunately, during that period, we had one of our temporary technicians here from the that we trained up for the pandemic. So that sort of plugged that gap for us. Then we had to fill that post, and that was filled internally. So the internal post had to be filled, and that was filled internally. And then that post had to be filled. And at the moment, we're reaching the end of that process, which is an external advertisement, which actually closed on Wednesday this week. And I'm shortlisting for that post on Monday. But I do know that, again, we've had a couple of good applications for that. So it's all timing issues to do with people leaving and us trying to re-recruit.
Okay, doc. Thanks, Joanna. Thanks, Chair.
Right, everyone happy to give the necessary approvals and accept the recommendations. I think we've had that proposed and seconded. Thank you for that. Move on to item 6. Joanne, please. Programme and
Yes.
meetings, if you're covering that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Bear with me while I just find it.
Yeah, fine. Okay.
Sorry. Yes, so the purpose of this report is to seek approval for the proposed programme of meetings for 2024-25, and that is in compliance with the Memorandum of Agreement for the Coychurch Crematorium Joint Committee. And that states that the first meeting of the Joint Committee after the annual meetings of the councils shall be the Joint Committee's annual general meeting. And at that meeting, the Joint Committee will elect their chairman and their vice chairperson for the ensuing year. So the 3 dates in June, September and March are proposed, and the Joint Committee is recommended to approve the programme of meetings. Thank you, Chair.
I'm taking a thumbs up as your approval,
Yeah.
Councillor Simon.
Move we accept, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No dissent. Okay, well, we come on to item 7, urgent business. I haven't received any notification of any items, so we can conclude the meeting unless anybody wishes to have anything to say. Just a big thank you again, Joanne, for all the work you do. It's tremendous, and our officers. Thank you again.